Why renouncing your Venezuelan passport is a terrible mistake. Today we discuss.
Welcome to Venezuela Insider, the only place in Venezuela for expats, digital nomads, entrepreneurs, investors, travelers, and related internationals. For more information, venezuelainsider.com.
So today we are going to discuss why renouncing to the Venezuelan passport is a horrendous mistake. And this video actually goes to my fellow Venezuelans, not for international, unless somehow you have a Venezuelan passport, so you stick for the next 10 minutes as well. Well, here's the main issue. A nationality is an asset. And I know, and I have to be very sympathetic because I'm a Venezuelan myself, with all of the turmoils and the issues that comes from being Venezuelan, especially if you are under 40, 45. What happens is that, well, when I explain to both of the crowds, is that in Venezuela, and I say the worst thing, the thing that I hate the most about Venezuela is the lack of opportunities. And opportunities are just for a handful of people close to the government, or people who are, rich kids and so on. And of course, you have some outliers, but statistically few. So I understand the most, especially if you're thinking on renouncing, is most likely because you migrated from Venezuela. We had a migration of over 7 million people, and they are all over the world, and they are mostly on the biggest places is Chile, Spain, right now in the United States, Ecuador, some people, also many, Peru, the Peruvian migration is hefty, and so on and so on. Right. And getting a passport, and this is something that I have to explain for internationals, and Venezuelans know very well, is one of the worst things about Venezuela is bureaucracy. The bureaucracy in Latin America is horrible. However, in Venezuela, it's horrendous. It's amongst the worst bureaucracies on the world. It's a combination of very inept bureaucrats and also a lot of corruption and so on and so on. So getting a passport is expensive and it's very difficult if you are Venezuelan, especially if you live abroad. And after that, if you want to visit Venezuela and travel to Venezuela, you need to do a registration if you have a second passport, you have to do a registration. There is a lot of bureaucratic hassles, things that you have to deal, many unpleasant people on the Venezuelan bureaucrats and so on. And the process is very tiresome compared to a normal country when the passport costs around $30 and Venezuela costs over $200, yes, just to issue the passport. And many mechanisms, if you are on a consulate, getting your passport on a consulate worldwide, or within Venezuela, it's easier to get it in Venezuela, but still with some caveats. And also, you have to mention that there's a very negative stigma that you have as a Venezuelan, and something that worldwide affects you a lot because you are less likely to get a good job, and people are going to see you as it's going to give you, the vibe that you are a miserable human being. And believe me, I have to deal with this as well. Not as much as if you are a veteran migrant on other country. And what end up happening is when you are on an airport, they think that you are an economic migrant and they don't want you to let through, and they send you to the back door room. And most of the time, many times, the people, let's say if you are in Chile or Spain or even the United States himself, there is a lot of racism and xenophobic things attached to the Venezuelan passport. They're going to retain you on the airport, and because they think that you're migrating over there. And believe me, I have to deal with, because we have a lot of idiotic bureaucrats other places, like for instance, Spain. And what ends up happening is this bad attachment of the Venezuelan passport, and this bad energy is tiresome and it's frustrating. And I understand perfectly if you are a Venezuelan and you are thinking on renouncing your Venezuelan passport because you have, let's say, a Chilean passport right now, and it's a great passport from Latin American standards, or you're already a US citizen, or maybe you are a Western European citizen. However, something you have to understand that the Venezuelan passport is a call option for the future. If you are young, if you are under 30, if you are Venezuelan, of course, you didn't saw the good years of Venezuela. I saw it when I was a kid. I mean, I'm not that old. And what happened is, I mean, Venezuela in the 80s, 70s and 80s, one of the richest places, GDP per capita in the world. We had great standards of living. Of course, we were not, we were not Dubai, Switzerland, anything like that, but we are better than Mexico, Colombia, and all that kind of places. And actually, they used to migrate to our country. That's for another day. So we lost that, and we had it on the early 2000s with Cadivi. Remember when traveling was very cheap, and actually you can get paid like traveling? Well, another story for another day. And people, people from Latin America, hey, come on, Venezuelans, come swipe your car over there, and so on. And after that, when some of you had to fled the country, they treated us, especially in our parts in Latin America, like human garbage. It is what it is. And also, we learn in Latin America that there is a lot of racism and xenophobia, but that happens with with the people from poor countries. And Venezuela went from being a rich Latin American country to being an African country in Latin America. So I'm seeing it. I'm laughing but believing. I was very frustrated back then. And we learned that our fellow Latinos are also very racist and xenophobic and elitist. And because they love their gringos and their Canadians and their Europeans, but they hate, like the Bolivians, people like that. And of course, they hate us. And they have, to a certain degree, they have a good point for that. Okay, and you saw the value of having a Venezuelan passport. It was actually very coveted to have a Venezuelan nationality. And also, when we receive a lot of migrants from the rest of Latin America and also from Western Europe, people from Spain, Italy. That's why some of you have Spaniard and Italian passports and Portuguese passports. Don't date Portuguese girls, by the way, for experience. Well, the thing is that at the moment, Venezuela was actually very friendly. We actually we held on our country millions of Colombians and Chileans and Peruvians and so on. And back then, we actually behaved pretty good with them because we had opportunities, plenty of opportunities for most of them. And right now, we are getting right now because we, as Venezuelans, are the ones migrating to the rest of the world. And, well, I'm still in Venezuela, by the way. And what happened is that we got the short end of the stick. We are the waiters, and we are the construction workers, or the people who earn less than minimum wage, and we live on tiny apartments and so on. And we think, I mean, this is a disgrace being a Venezuelan. And the thing is, well, yeah, if you think that, actually you have all the reasons, legitimate reasons to think so. However, what happens is that this is, on the grand scheme of things, time-wise, this is just a hiccup for the Venezuelan economy. Of course, this is a very long-lasting hiccup. And many of your frustration you directed towards the Venezuelan government. And if you do that, you have all of the reasons to do so. And because they are mostly to blame. It is what it is. However, you have to think one thing. Nationalities and passports are something that live longer than you are going to live. Venezuela right now is on a hiccup. Venezuela most likely on the next 20, 30 years, I don't know how long, it's going to be better. And most likely it's going to be a country top 3, top 5 regarding GDP per capita on Latin America. And beware, if not on 50 years, it is one of a top 10 country regarding GDP per capita on the world. And it's not impossible that ends up happening because Venezuela has everything to do that. And we have largest oil reserves. We are rich on commodities, a good location. We have also very high skilled people, a lot of educated people, geopolitical situation that is very specific. I mean, we have a very good geographic location on the Americas. We are very close to the United States, and so on, and so on, and so on. And I mean, if we can do it, we can do it. On 20 years, it's not far-fetched to think that Venezuela is going to be a top 20 country regarding GDP per capita in the next 20 years. I mean, it's 20 years. I mean, if you have children right now, probably you're not even a grandma or a grandpa back then. And maybe you want to pass by the passport because it's an asset, having a nationality. And many of my clients know, some of my clients have 2, 3, 4, 5 passports. And they know having an extra passport is an extra opportunity, it's an extra asset. In case of Venezuelan passport, is a call option for the future. But even right now, Venezuela, the Venezuelan passport is not a terrible passport. It's a bad passport for the Americas because many nations on Latin America demand us Venezuelans to get a visa. Of course, people, US and Canada, they always want a visa for Latinos because we are poor third world people from third world countries that want to migrate to their country. That might end on 1 or 2 decades on the future, believe me. Canada is just taking a nosedive, and the United States is not doing as well as they think. Now, and of course, people, Peru require visa for us, the Caribbean islands, and Panama, Mexico, the Central American... you're gonna pay back Central American economies for that. Trust, I can guarantee you that. And also, we can only travel to the rest of the Americas in Colombia, don't require visa, in Argentina, and Brazil, and Ecuador requires visa as well. So you get the point. However, on the rest of the world, Venezuela still has a great passport for worldwide standards. We have a Schengen visa, so we don't need a visa in order to enter to Western Europe. We can go to Russia. Believe me, it's hard to enter to Russia. Venezuelans, we can just walk by. Same thing with Belarus and many nations all over the world, many nations on the Middle East. By the way, we can enter visa-free. That is next to impossible for other nationalities. In Southeast Asia and Hong Kong, you don't require a visa to go to Hong Kong. So the Venezuelan passport is a valuable asset for some people. If you decide to not renounce to your passport, do it for these reasons. It's a call option. It's an option for the future. It's something that you can inherit to your sons and grandsons when Venezuela is better, because Venezuela is going to be better in the future. I can guarantee that. How long it's going to take, I don't know. Now, I have to say, if you have this mindset of the 80s that Venezuela is going to fix itself because we're going to go back to the 80s or the early 2000s with a lot of socialism and a lot of government protection for private entrepreneurship, no, that's not going to happen, by the way. But we're going to have a great country, a top 3, 4 country, maybe the best country in Latin America on the near future. I can guarantee that on my dead body. Yes, I'm getting sentimental. Yeah, but I have to be very clear with this point. So when you renounce to the Venezuelan passport, you are denying your descendants the opportunity to have access to that market. And remember, Venezuelans, we are spiteful. So we know which country treat us good and which country treat us bad. So that goes for you, Chile. That goes for you, Peru. That goes for you, Panama. And that goes for you, Caribbean islands. So we know what you're doing. And believe me, we want payback. Venezuelans, we want payback. Believe me. And that's going to happen. And you're going to crave for our apologies. And you're going to crave for our good grace. Now, yeah, I'm taking it very personally. Just because this is personal. And Venezuela, and the people, my fellow Venezuelans know why I'm like this. So, you're denying your descendants the opportunity to regain access to a very wealthy and a country with opportunities on the near future. It's just a call option. I know that Venezuela doesn't deserve that, because if you're a young fellow, especially a young man under 30 years old, and Venezuela treat you like crap and never gave you an opportunity, and I understand perfectly. However, don't do it for the country. Do it for yourself and for your future childs and grandsons if you reach that level, and I hope that is the case. So having a Venezuelan passport is a call option for the future. Don't waste it. I know it's a pain on the rear end to get a Venezuelan passport, especially if you live in Chile or Madrid or whatever might be the case, especially your particular case. So I'm talking to you, fellow Venezuelan that lives abroad. Keep your Venezuelan passport. I know it gets you a very terrible stigma, and you think that you are slapping back the Venezuelan government, and you have all the rights to think that way. However, remember, you most likely, or at least your sons, are gonna outlive the Venezuelan government that we have right now. I mean, they're not going to live like 100 years or something like that. And even if they do, they have to mutate their policies in order to stay in charge long term. Probably the coolest thing by the next 10 years or so is going to be libertarian economics. We are seeing that in Argentina already, by the way. So you only have to outlive this terrible government that we had on the past, let's say, well, decades. Well, you know the point. So do it for yourself. Take a chance. Just suck up the terrible bureaucratic process of once in a while having to get a new Venezuelan passport, and that's it. And inherit that passport to your next in kin, because most likely they're going to need it. Remember, Spain and the rest of the European Union is going to the drains. Canada is taking a nosedive. So those countries that right now are rich, most likely in the future are going to decline. It's going to be worse for them. They are applying terrible policies. And maybe Latin America or maybe Southeast Asia or the Gulf region are going to be the future. Not North America, not the United States, not Canada, not France or the United Kingdom or Japan or South Korea. So most of the time, thinking worldwide and thinking history-wise, the countries that used to be rich, they can become poor, and the countries that they were poor, then became rich, and so on and so on. See what happened with China. See what happened in Japan. Rich, then poor, then rich, right now stagnated. Same thing in Western Europe. Some cases in Eastern Europe as well. So think about the future. Don't do it. Don't renounce your Venezuelan passport. Do it as a favor to yourself. Not to me. I have my Venezuelan passport, and I'm going to die with them. But think on the future and think on your next in kind, think on your descendants. They are going to receive a call option. They're going to receive an opportunity that they might need in the future if you live in Spain, because the economy in Spain is not as great. The economy in Chile is not as great. The economy in the United States is not as great. As many people think, believe me, I do this for a living. And maybe on the next 10, 20 years, Venezuela is going to be the place on the future. Not the US, not the EU, not Chile, not Japan. Well, there are not migrants in Japan, Venezuelan migrants in Japan, by the way. But you know the point. So think it, watch this video like 10 times when you're thinking about renouncing your Venezuelan passport.
Thank you for watching Venezuela Insider. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on social media. If you want to work with us, VenezuelaInsider.com. Thanks again, and have a nice day.